In this video, we are going to study about aggregate functions. First of all, what is an aggregate function? We know that in the case of a table or a relation, it consists of multiple columns. Each column can be represented as an attribute. Some of the attribute will have numeric values. Some of the attribute will have characters, that is strings. Normally, SQL offers 5 built-in aggregate functions. Aggregate function means it is a set of functions which take input as a collection of values and its output will be normally a single value. For example, suppose we want to find the sum of a list of numbers. We will give that input as we will give that values as input to this function, and we know that sum will be always a unique value or a particular single value that will represent the sum of all those numbers. SQL support these 5 main aggregate functions, and here in the left side I have written the meaning of each and every aggregate function, and on the right side it's short form or the function name. So the first one is called the average. So it is mainly used to find out the average of n numbers. Next one is minimum. A minimum is an aggregate function which is used to find out the minimum among a list of values or a list of attributes. Then in the same manner, maximum will find out the maximum value. Total is used to find out, that is total, if you want to total a set of values, we will use the attribute whose name is sum. And in the case of count, that is mainly used to find out the total number of rows that satisfy certain constraints. So we will study each of them in detail and its corresponding syntax. The first one is, first point before explaining the aggregate function, as I said, different columns will have different types of attributes. That is, attribute value may be different. Some of them will have a numeric value and some of them will have other data type, that is other than the numeric value. In this 5 aggregate function, the sum and average can only be applied to numeric values. That is, if you are selecting a particular column, if the column contains or if that attribute contains only numeric value, then only we can apply these two aggregate functions. But other operators or other aggregate functions can operate on non-numeric type data also, like string. So here I am going to explain the first 3 aggregate functions. The first one is count. As I said, count is an aggregate function that is used to count the number of rows that satisfied a specific criteria. For example, suppose we have a table which is called instructor, and it has 4 attributes are there: ID of the instructor, name of the instructor, the department in which he or she is studying, teaching, and the salary of the instructor. And based on the department, suppose that if you want to find out, if you want to count, for example, we want to count how many instructors are there in computer science department, or how many instructors are there in MCA department, like that. If you want to count them, so there the condition we have given is in MCA department, that is the condition. And in the first example, in computer science department, that is the condition. Based on the condition, if you want to find out the total number of rows that are present in a table or a relation, we can use the count. Suppose if you are not specifying any condition, that will give you the count aggregate function will count the total number of rows in a relation. Okay, so we can use the count aggregate function with the predicate or without predicate. If you are using without predicate, that will give you the total number of rows in a table or a relation, and if you are specifying with predicate, that will give you the total number of rows that satisfy the specified predicate. Predicate means condition. The next one is called the average. The average is mainly used in order to find out the average of a list of values. For example, if you have a column called salary in our instructor table, we know that the salary contains only numeric value. So if you want to find out the average salary of any particular department or entire all the departments. That is, we want to find the salary of all the instructors, average salary of all the instructors in a particular college or a university. That is also that can be applied. Okay, so there we have to write in bracket whatever may be the aggregate function we are using, in which column we are going to apply. That particular column name should be given in this parenthesis. That is the meaning of each and every parenthesis. So in the second example, suppose here we want to find out the average of salary. In bracket we will specify that column name salary, because here that means that this function will take all the salary, that is the column salary as input, and it will find out the average value, and that value will be printed in the form of a table. The next one is sum. The sum is also will do the same, similar to that of the average. This will just compute the sum of all the list of values. Okay. So as I said, the new average and sum will take input in the form of numeric value only. Suppose that if you are concentrating on the average, so as I said, I will show you how to find out the average of a salary. So here, suppose this is the table I have created, and four columns are there: ID, name, department, and salary. And I am setting primary key ID as my primary key. So first of all, I am going to run this command. I am going to create a table. So the table is created. So now I have a table which is called instructor with all the 4 fields and ID as a primary key. Now I am trying to execute these commands. Suppose that individually I am trying to execute it. First I am going to execute the first command to insert the first row to this table. And now I am going to execute the second insert command that will insert the second row to the table. Then now the third row has been inserted, and this is my fourth row. I am going to insert the fourth row, and suppose one more row I am going to insert. So far one person is there from computer science department. One person is there from EC department, 2 persons are there from AAA department. And suppose I am going to insert one more value. I'm going So I'm going to run, I'm going to execute one more, insert one more command, one more tuple to this table. So far I have 5 rows are there, or 5 tuples are there in my table. So I will show those values. Suppose I'm going to run this, select star from instructor. So you can check 5 rows are there, 2 persons from computer science, 2 persons from AAA, 1 person from EC. So based on this table, I am going to execute these different commands for different aggregate function. The first thing we studied is about the average. Suppose we want to find out the average of all the instructors. That is, we want to find out the average of all the salaries. For that purpose, we don't want to give any condition. Okay, then I am going to execute this command. The command which is used to find out if you want to find out the average of all the instructors, I am not going to specify any condition like from any other department. So I don't have any predicate now, because what I am going to do is I am going to find out the average salary of all the instructors, and now I am going to run this command. Okay, so we can see what happens. So just remember which are the different tuples available and which are the different values available. So this average function will take this particular column as input. This list of values will be given as input to this function, and we can see how we are getting the output. So what is after the select statement, what we have written is AVJ of salary. So whenever we get the output, we know that every table will have a heading. Here the heading will be AVJ salary, because we have given AVJ salary, that will be taken as default value. So whenever I am going to run this one, it will be more clear. So the AVJ salary is the, we are getting the output as a single table which contains only single column, that is single attribute, and that attribute contains only single value, that is single tuple. That is row wise and column wise. If we are explaining, row means tuple, column means attribute. So this output, if you are taking this all the aggregate function, the output always consists of only one column. Okay, if you are not specifying any other information, it will be, output will be, the final output will be, here you will get one column which contains only one tuple. Okay, so here we can see what output we are getting. The output we are getting is the average salary of all the instructors. Okay, if you find out the result, the result will be same. The average, manually if you are computing, that value will be same as this value. And next is, suppose I want to find out the average salary of instructor who was working in EEE department. And as we said, we have seen that only 2 instructors are there from the EEE department. So now I am going to find out the average salary. I am going to run this command. Okay. So what we are getting, 64,000 is the average salary of the persons who are working in EEE department. That is, these 2 persons are there who are working in EEE department. So the average of 34,000 and 94,000 is equal to 64,000. Okay. In the same manner, suppose if you want to find out the average salary of all the departments, not all the department. If you want to find out the average salary of the computer science department, we will get the output like this. We have to write the command like this. So instead of EEE, we have to use CS. So this is 61,000 is the average salary of the persons, instructors who are working in CS department. So now we can see how we are writing the command. Select average of that particular column. The column should be unique numeric value. From which table, where, if we have any predicate is there, we can specify the predicate. So here we are checking for the, we are trying to find out the average salary of the persons who are working in CS department. In 2 ways you can write this. Either we can use like clause, like, okay, department like CS, that is same as department is equal to CS. Both will give you the same result. So this is the meaning of AVJ, that is average. Next we have to find out, if you want to find out the sum of salaries of instructors who are working in CS department. I am going to run it. So you will get the sum 1,22,000. Total, we can check whether the answer is correct. This is the persons who are working in instructors, the list of instructors. From CS, 88,000, 34,000 is the salary of other person from CS. If you find out the sum, it will be 1,22,000. Okay, so that is how sum is working. The next we specified is the minimum and maximum. Okay, we can check whether that is the correct one. So this is what we said. Then average salary department wise. Other point is that in some cases when we apply the aggregate function, we want to avoid the duplicates. And we said that whenever we are retrieving some value from a table, and if you want to avoid the duplicate, we will use the keyword which is called distinct. Okay, so in the same manner, the distinct keyword can be used along with the aggregate function like minimum, maximum, sum, etc. in order to avoid the duplicates. For example, suppose there is a question like this. Find the total number of instructors who can teach a course in spring 2010 semester. So actually this is taken from a table which is called teach table, and in that table there were separate columns were there, one for semester and one for year. So actually spring 2010 is taken from 2 different columns. Okay, so here what is the meaning of this statement? We want to find out the instructors who are teaching a course in this combination, that is spring in 2010. So if you want to find this one, there may be certain instructors who are taking different courses, but we just want to find out the instructors who are teaching the courses. So in that case, we don't want the duplicate. That is, if two persons are taking two courses on the same specified year, it will be counted as one person. Okay, that means we want to avoid the duplicate. So here we can write how we will write the query. Select count. We just want to count in bracket. You can specify distinct ID. We know that each person can be identified by an ID. So if you want to avoid duplicate, you have to write distinct here from teachers table where this first attribute and second attribute matches. So this is the way how to avoid the duplicate in the case of aggregate function. And the next one we have to specify is about the count that we were discussing in detail. We want to discuss count is mainly used. Suppose we want to, usually the count is specified by count star. Okay. Suppose I want to count how many persons are there who is working in CS department. So I will run this command and we can see what output you are getting. The meaning of the count aggregate function is this will count the total number of rows that satisfy a constraint. Here the constraint is given as where this condition. Okay, so this will give you the total number of persons who are working in CS department, and we know that it is 2. And suppose we are not giving any condition, this will give you, suppose there is no where clause is there. If you are running this command, we can see that this will count the total number of rows in instructor table. So you can see count star is equal to 5. That means 5 rows are there inside this count table. So this is the meaning of the count aggregate function. Okay. But one point is that when we compare to other aggregate function, we cannot use the distinct keyword along with the count. Count will apply to duplicates. We cannot avoid the duplicates in the case of count. So that is very important point. That is all the aggregate function other than the count. In that case, we can apply. If we want to avoid duplicate, we can use the distinct keyword. But in the case of count, we cannot use the distinct keyword. And this is the syntax, and the syntax is same as what we have just done. And minimum and maximum is the next two aggregate function we have to apply, or we have to study. And the first, suppose that from the table I want to find out the person with the minimum salary. So what I will write is select minimum salary. For example, we can we have to get the ID and minimum salary from instructor. Let me, okay, not simple. Suppose I want to get the minimum salary from this table instructor, I have to write the command like this. So whenever I am running the command, I will get the output as minimum salary. 34,000 is the minimum salary inside the table, and we can check whether the answer is correct. This is the instructor table. And if you are checking the instructor table 34,000 is the minimum salary. Two persons have the same salary. So the output we will get is 34,000 is the minimum salary. And suppose if you want to find the maximum salary, we know that 94,000 is the maximum salary. And we can check if you apply the aggregate function max, whether we are getting the maximum salary. So command is saying instead of min, we have to write the max. So here this will give you the maximum salary of instructor table. That is 94,000 is the value. So that is the maximum salary. And these are the main aggregate functions. Okay, so these are the examples we can see. Minimum, maximum, etc. So these are the main points, main type of aggregate function. And one point we have seen here is when we write a command like max salary, what output we are getting? We are getting the heading of the output as max salary. This will be default one. Suppose if you want to change the name of the heading, we can use the as. After writing the aggregate function, if you want to change the name, you just want to write the as, and after that we have to specify what should be the name we have to get a maximum salary. So whenever I am writing this one, maximum salary, and I am trying to execute this one, so we can check what output we are getting. You just want to notice here what output you are getting. So instead of max salary, we will get maximum salary. That is whatever we are giving after as, that will be printed as the heading of this output. So this as can be applied to any aggregate function. So far when we applied all this aggregate function, we are just considering the table as a whole. Okay. But in some case, if you want to group the entire table, and then we want to apply the aggregate function. For example, in the instructor table, we know that the persons are there from various departments. And suppose that we want to group them based on the department wise grouping. For example, department wise average, if you want to calculate, like computer science, we want to find the average of computer science department, average of EEE department, like that. If you want to apply the aggregate function after grouping, we can use the clause group by. Okay, so we can see how this query will work. The query is that find the average salary in each department. So far we considered the table as a whole, that is a single unit. Here what we have to do is, we want to divide the entire table into different groups based on the department, and after that we have to find out the average salary. That means we are applying the aggregate function after grouping the entire table. So this is the command for that. The command is select what we want. If you suppose that if you want to get the name of the department along with its corresponding average salary, select department name comma the average salary. Here we are just renaming it from the instructor table. As we said, here we want to apply the aggregate function based on the groups. So for that we are using group by clause, and we can specify based on which group, which attribute we need to do the group by. So I will show you how it works. So here, suppose I want to find out this one. So here, suppose I am writing the command like this. I want to find a department wise average. That is what my aim. So what I have to do is, I just want to know the department name also along with their average. So I am writing the command select department comma the average salary. So this will give two outputs. The output contains two rows. Two columns will be there. One will be the department name of the department. Second one is its corresponding average. From the instructor table, group by department. So here this name should be the name of the attribute based on which we want to group. So here group by department means, first of all, actually this task is done in two steps. From the first step is that from the instructor table, the persons will be grouped based on the department. After that, the second step works. That is the average salary, department-wise salary will be calculated. So this is the output we are getting. As we said, we have to output these two attributes. So in the first column, we will get the first attribute, department. The second column, we will get the average salary of each department. Meaning is that EEE has the average salary 64,000, EC has the average salary 67,888, CS has the average salary 61,000. So this is how the group by department works. Suppose that we want to find out the average salary of this table. So this table will be given as input to the entire query. So the first step it will be divided based on the department. So here how the group by works. So this is the table first we are giving. In the next step, it will be divided into different groups based on the department. So biology is the first department, this is second department, this is third department, like that. Then based on the department, these are the department names and this is the corresponding average salary. Then next one is having clause. Having clause, we know that so far we discussed when we study about when we write the SQL query. If you want to write any predicate or a condition, we will write the where statement. So in some cases, we want to check the condition after grouping the table using group by. Okay. So in that case, we can apply the predicate by using the having clause. So having is a clause which is used to give the condition such that the condition should be applied after the group by. That is after dividing the entire tuples into groups. In that case, we can use the having clause. So it is very important that you have to differentiate what is the use of the where clause, what is the use of the having clause. Actually, both are used to give the condition to a particular table. Where condition is we will apply the where condition before dividing the entire relation into groups. That is, if you does not have any group, if you are considering the entire table as a single group, we can apply the where clause, where condition. But suppose if you want to check a certain condition after dividing the table into different groups, we have to use this having. For example, suppose that there is a query, there is a statement like this. Suppose we want to find out the departments with where the average salary of the instructors are greater than $42,000. That means we know that the instructor table has different department, and here we want to find out we are interested only on the departments who has the average salary greater than 42,000. So what are the tasks we have to do here? The first thing is that from the table we have to divide the table, or we have to group the table department wise. Then we want to calculate the average salary department wise, and only after that we want to check whether each department has an average salary greater than 42,000. If the average salary is greater than 42,000, then only that particular department name will be outputted to the final result. So this will be the style of writing the command. Select department name, AVJ salary from instructor. So this will output the department name along with the average salary department wise. From the instructor, group by department name. We know that first of all we have to group the department, and only after that we will apply the condition having average salary greater than 42,000. So that means that first of all the table will be grouped based on department wise, based on the department. Then its average salary will be evaluated. Then that average salary will be checked with this condition, and if the condition is true, then only the department name and corresponding average salary will be outputted. So we can write how the same thing we are applying. So this is the condition of difference between having and where clause. Having and where clause. Predicate in having clause are applied after formation of groups. Okay. So this is the formation. So after forming the groups, if you want to apply any predicate, we will use having. But in the case of where, it is applied before the forming groups. So if you are not using, if you are not grouping the table, if you want to apply any particular condition, we can use the where clause. Okay, and that is the main 2 points we have to study. Then next one is, in some cases when we apply the aggregate functions like sum or average, there may be certain columns which contains null values. Okay, suppose a particular person has, in our table, suppose a particular person has salary null. If you are going to find out the average salary, we know that the null will be normally ignored by most of the aggregate function other than the count. The count will consider that particular row, or that will count that particular row even if it contains a null value. But all other aggregate functions like minimum, maximum, sum, etc., that will just ignore if a particular column contains, if a particular value contains a null, attribute contains a null value. So next I will show you one point, that is how this having clause is working. So here I am writing select department, average salary from group by department. So after that I will write having average salary greater than, suppose I am just writing greater than 65,000. Okay, 65,000. So we know that this is the actual value we are getting before after grouping average salary of each department. From here I am applying a having clause. Having clause is that I want to get these details only if the average salary is greater than 65,000. So what output you will get? You will get only the EC. This particular second row will be outputted. We can check whether it is getting correctly. Okay. So after running this one, is salary, not sal, it is. So here we can see what we are getting. From this table, these values will be outputted if the average salary of the department is greater than 65,000. As we see, the EC contains only that particular condition. EC meet only that particular condition. So it will be just outputted. So this is the points about aggregate functions.